They said they'd take care of me. They said they'd help me heal. But what they really wanted was my insurance money? When I first came home from the hospital, I still believed love could heal anything. My body was weak, my legs trembling, but my heart was full of hope. My daughter held my arm and whispered, "Don't worry, Mama, we'll take care of you." Those words, they were supposed to mean comfort, but soon, I realized, they meant control. It all started after the accident. The car hit me while I was crossing the street after church. I woke up in a hospital bed with stitches, a broken hip, and the kind of pain that makes you forget how it feels to breathe. The doctor said recovery would take months, maybe more. But he also said something else, that my insurance company would cover the entire cost. When my children heard that, their faces changed, not with worry, but with calculation. I should have known then, but love makes you blind, especially when it's your own blood. After a week, they insisted I come home. "You'll heal better with family," they said. I believed them. But when I arrived, I noticed things, strange things. The medications weren't being refilled on time. The bills were being redirected to my son's name. And every night, I'd hear them whispering in the kitchen. "She's getting a big check from the insurance," my daughter said. "How much?" "Almost 70,000. "And who's getting it?" "Well, we are, right? We're the ones taking care of her." I froze. They weren't taking care of me. They were taking care of the money. I remember lying in bed that night, pretending to be asleep. Tears slipped down my cheeks as I listened to them plan how to manage my funds. My body ached, but not from the wounds anymore. It was my heart that hurt now. Every "Are you okay, Mama?" started sounding like, "Is the check here yet?" Every "We love you" began to feel like "We love what you have." I started to realize I wasn't in recovery. I was in captivity, surrounded by people who didn't want me healed, but paid. And one night, when I overheard them say they might handle the check without me knowing, I knew I had to act. Even if it broke me, I had to protect what was left of my dignity and my life. After that night, everything began to feel different. The house I'd built with laughter, prayers, and love now felt like a prison. They moved me into the small guest room so I wouldn't have to use the stairs, they said. But the truth was, it kept me away from the front door. Away from freedom. They controlled what I ate, when I slept, even who I talked to. When my old friend Martha called one evening to check on me, my daughter quickly grabbed the phone. "Mama's resting," she said, forcing a smile that never reached her eyes. After she hung up, she turned to me and said, "You need to stay off the phone, Mama. You need rest." Rest? No. What I needed was a way out. Every morning, my son would check the mail before I could even get to it. I knew what he was looking for, the insurance check. The one that had become the center of their world. I watched as they searched through envelopes, whispering about forms and signatures. They thought I didn't notice, but a mother always knows. One day, while they were out running errands, I dragged myself out of bed and went to the kitchen. I opened a drawer and found a stack of papers, hospital bills, insurance letters, and a document that made my blood run cold. They'd forged my signature. They were trying to cash my check before it even arrived. My hands trembled as I held the papers. The pain in my hip was nothing compared to the pain in my chest. How could my own children? I sat there in silence, tears falling onto the papers. Then I heard the sound of the front door. They were back. I quickly put everything away and returned to bed, pretending to be asleep. That night, I cried quietly, staring at the ceiling. I remembered the days when I worked 2 jobs to feed them, when I skipped meals so they could eat. I thought about the lullabies I used to sing when they were sick. Now, they were the ones making me sick, with lies, with greed, with betrayal. I wanted to scream, to tell them I knew. But fear held my tongue. Because if they could forge my name for money, what else were they capable of? The next morning, my son walked in with a smile too wide to be real. "Good news, Mama," he said. "The check's coming soon." I looked at him and nodded weakly. But inside, I made a promise to myself. If they wanted that check so bad, they were going to learn what it really meant to earn something. They thought I was weak. But they didn't know. I still had fight left in me. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding, not from fear but from resolve. I had spent my whole life protecting my children. Now, I had to protect myself from them. I knew I couldn't confront them directly. They had the house, the keys, the control, but what they didn't have was my mind, and I still had enough strength left to use it. The next morning, I asked my daughter to hand me my old purse, the one I'd brought from the hospital. I want to look at some photos, I said softly. She handed it to me, not realizing what else was inside. My old flip phone. Still charged. Still working. I waited until both of them left the house to pick up groceries though. I knew they were heading to the insurance office again. My hands shook as I dialed a number I hadn't called in months. Martha. My dearest friend. The one person I still trusted. When she picked up, her voice trembled. Mary, oh Lord. Mary, are you all right? No, I whispered, tears welling up. They're trying to take everything. Even my name. I need help. Without hesitation, Martha said, I'm coming. Just hold on. Within an hour, I heard a gentle knock. Martha stood there with concern in her eyes, and someone else behind her. A tall man in a suit. This is Mr. Lewis, she said. He's a lawyer, my nephew. Tell him everything. And I did. Every lie. Every forged paper. Every cruel whisper I'd heard through the walls. He listened quietly, taking notes. Then he said, Mrs. Turner, you have rights. They cannot take your insurance check without your consent. We'll contact your insurance company and stop any transaction until we verify everything. It was the first time in months I felt like I could breathe again. When my children came home, they saw Martha leaving and grew suspicious. Who was that? My daughter asked, her voice sharp. Just a friend, I said calmly, smiling for the first time in weeks. She came to pray for me. They didn't question it further, but I could tell they felt something shift. I wasn't scared anymore, and fear was the only thing that gave them power. The next few days, I acted like nothing had changed. But behind their backs, I signed new papers, this time the right ones, with Mr. Lewis's help. My insurance company was alerted, and the fraud investigation began quietly. I had turned their greed into their trap. They thought I was too weak to fight. But they forgot a mother's silence isn't surrender. Sometimes, it's strategy. And soon, they were about to learn just how dangerous a betrayed woman with faith can be. It was a quiet Thursday morning when the storm finally hit. I was sitting in my chair by the window, sunlight spilling softly onto my blanket, when I heard a firm knock at the door. My daughter rushed to open it, expecting another delivery. But instead, two men in suits stepped inside. Good morning, one of them said politely. We're from the insurance company's fraud department. We need to speak with Mrs. Mary Turner. My children froze. My son stammered, she's resting. Maybe we can, but I interrupted. I'm right here. Their faces turned pale as I slowly stood up with my cane, my eyes locked on theirs. What's this about? My son asked, his voice trembling. The agent opened a folder and placed the forged documents on the table. These papers were submitted under Mrs. Turner's name, he said, but our handwriting expert confirmed they were falsified. My daughter's hand flew to her mouth. My son's jaw tightened. That's impossible, he said. The agent looked straight at him. Then why is the contact number on these forms registered to you? Silence. The kind that cuts deeper than words. I could see the fear crawling up their faces. The same faces I once kissed goodnight. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I'd already cried every tear I had left. I took a deep breath and spoke softly. I told you once that money can't heal a soul, but you never listened. You were too busy counting what you thought you'd inherit. The agents gathered their documents and said, "Mrs. Turner, the investigation will proceed. You're protected under law. They won't be able to access your insurance funds." I nodded, and they left. As the door closed behind them, my son turned toward me, anger and shame battling in his eyes. "You called them," he shouted. "I saved myself," I said quietly. "Because you wouldn't." My daughter broke down crying. "Mama, we didn't mean to." I raised my hand gently. "Don't lie anymore. You meant every word, every plan. You just never thought I'd live long enough to stop you." The house went silent again, except for the sound of my breathing, slow, steady, alive. That night, I packed a small bag. Martha came to pick me up, and I didn't look back. As we drove away, I saw my home fade in the rearview mirror, not with pain, but peace. Because sometimes, walking away is the loudest way to say enough. They were left with their guilt, and I was left with my freedom. It's been 6 months since I left that house. 6 months since I traded pain for peace, and family for freedom. I now live in a small, quiet home near the edge of town, nothing fancy, but it's mine. The walls don't whisper greed here. The air doesn't carry the weight of lies. I wake up every morning to the sound of birds instead of arguments, and that alone feels like a blessing. Some nights, I still think about them, my children. I wonder if they regret what they did, or if they still justify it somehow. I used to dream of reconciliation, of them coming to my door and saying, "Mama, we're sorry." But I've learned something. Healing doesn't always come with apologies. Sometimes, healing is choosing not to need one. Martha visits me every weekend. We drink tea on the porch and laugh like two girls who've seen too much but survived it anyway. And every time she leaves, she hugs me tight and says, "You did the right thing." I used to doubt that, but not anymore. I've found purpose again. I volunteer at the local clinic now, helping other elderly women understand their rights, teaching them that kindness should never mean silence. I tell them, protect your heart, but protect your name too. Because what happened to me isn't rare. Too many mothers suffer quietly, believing that love should excuse betrayal. But love, real love, doesn't take, it gives. It protects, it heals. Sometimes I look at my old hospital bracelet, the one I kept as a reminder. It's faded now, the letters barely visible. But when I touch it, I remember that weak, broken woman lying in that hospital bed, the one who thought she had no one left. She was wrong. She had herself, and that's what saved her. If my children ever come back one day, I'll open the door, not with anger, not with tears, but with peace. Because forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. It's the key that unlocks the door to my own heart. I hope they've learned that money can fill a pocket, but it can never fill the emptiness left by a lost mother's love. Before I go to bed every night, I whisper a small prayer. Lord, thank you for showing me the truth, not to break me, but to rebuild me. And I know now, sometimes the people who promise to help you heal are the very ones who make you hurt. But if you hold on to faith, to hope, to your own worth, healing will come. Not from them, but from you.